I'm continuing the Akkadian grammar, the inductive Akkadian grammar of Hammurapi's Epilogue. And last time we were reading in column 49, and I believe we stopped on line 72. And so those of you that might be following along, we would invite you to join us continuing this working through Hammurapi's Epilogue. In my understanding, what is happening here is that Hammurapi is cursing or asking the gods to place judgment on anyone that would change his laws. And he's throwing out curses against anyone that would seek to alter what he had written. So this, we come up to this particular line, 73. He has asked that Enlil cause a reign of trouble, years of famine, darkness without light, and so forth, that he would determine for anyone that would change his laws. This is what Hammurapi is saying at this point. This brings us up to 73, where it reads, Chalak urshu nashpu nishishu sarusu shupelam shumshu u zikershu inamatim la shub sham. So as we translate that, it reads, not only may he determine for him these other things, but the destruction of his city, the dispersion of his people, his kingdom to deposing or falling, his name and his memory in the land, may it not be permitted to exist. This is what Hammurapi is saying. And then in 79 to 80, Enapishu kaptim likbi, by his forceful mouth may he speak or order this. So this is where we're at. And so we'll pick up in line 73. If you're following me, you can find on, actually it's online that we have put out on Google Books, entitled a short inductive Akkadian grammar based on the epilogue of Hammurapi's Code. And my goal is also to give biblical parallels from the Hebrew scripture and New Testament application. So since I'm a biblical teacher in terms of my past career. So we basically now go on, and when it reads Chalak Alishu, it's translated the destruction of his city. Notice Chalak is in construct with Alishu, and Halak is from Halku, meaning destruction, and Halku changes to Halak in construct with Alishu, which means his city. It's interesting, in Hebrew, you can have, for example, Isha, and construct becomes Eshet. And so the noun will change in construct in Hebrew. The same thing happens here from Chalku becoming Chalak. So the destruction, and notice the Uru Shu. Uru, capital U, R-U, is Sumerian for city. And Shu is your pronominal suffix, third masculine singular. And this is in the genitive. So it's Chalak Alishu, from the word city, alum, And notice the I vowel gives it away as a genitive. And it's like in Hebrew. You have two nouns, let's say Beit Lechem, house of bread. And house is in construct with Lechem. So that basically the noun that follows is genitival. And that's what we have here. So the destruction of his city, followed by the pronominal suffix, third masculine singular in the shu. Then as we go on, nashpuch nishishu, that is the dispersion of his people. Notice nashpuch means a dispersion or a turning away, to turn. So I would render this the dispersion, and it's in construct with nishishu, of his people. Nishishu, the noun is nishum in Akkadian, and notice again it's in the genitive with the I ending, followed by the shu, the pronominal suffix, third masculine singular. So he is saying the dispersion of his people, much like what we had in the Hebrew Bible, when Israel was sent into Assyria and then into Babylon, it meant a dispersion. And in the New Testament, it's spoken of as a diaspora. So at any rate, the dispersion of his people, sharushtu shupelam, his kingdom to, can I say, to falling or to deposing. Notice sharusu is from sharutu. And when you add a shu to that in Akkadian, you end up with two S's. You end up with sharutshu becoming sharusu. And this is what we have here then. And so the kingdom, or his kingdom, again from sharutu, his kingdom to deposing. Notice shupelam, I believe, is from the root napalu, to fall, and it's a sheen, as I'm understanding it, infinitive from napalu, and I think in Hebrew of nafal, to fall. And so there is a relationship there, I think, in terms of the word itself. So shupelam would be to deposing, a sheen infinitive with the verb napalu. And then he goes on, after saying, his kingdom needs to be deposed or fallen, his name, shumshu u zikirshu ina matim la shubsham, his name and his memory in the land not to be permitted to exist, or may it not be permitted to exist. Notice shumshu is from the noun shumu, meaning name. And here again, shum is in construct with shu, which is pronominal suffix, third masculine singular in Akkadian, his name. And zikiru is from ziklum, meaning memory. And in construct with shu, it becomes zikir shu. So his name and his memory, inamatim, in the land. Notice the preposition inna, taking the genitive, and matim from matum, meaning land. And that I again gives it away as a genitival form. So in the land, may it not be permitted to exist. La shub sham. Notice shub sham followed by la. La, by the way, is a negative particle. And we have the root bashu, to be or to exist. And so the sheen here, suffix, is indicative, in my understanding, of a sheen infinitive from bashu. May it not exist or be allowed to exist. And then he goes on in line 79, Ina kashu kabtim likbi. Notice Ina, by, here again we have the preposition taking the genitive case in Akkadian, and ka is your Sumerian for mouth, followed by shu, and bringing that into Akkadian, it read pishu in normalization, and pishu is from the noun apum, meaning mouth, and shu is your pronominal suffix, again, third masculine singular. So by his mouth, and kaptim means forceful, and I'm understanding this as an adjective, again in the genitive case. So by his forceful mouth may he speak. And notice likbi is from the root kabu, to speak, and it's a G precative. In other words, may he speak. Here we have like a command. And notice again that li gives it away as a precative, a G precative from kabu, a middle weak form. So by his forceful mouth may he speak or order something. And then it goes on, dinger nin lil, which means may nin lil. Alma is the Sumerian for mother, and umum is the Akkadian translation of that. So may ninlil, the umum, the mother, rabitum, meaning mighty. It's the adjective that means mighty. May ninlil, the mighty mother. And we asked the question, who was Ninlil? And again, I'm going to read a statement from a book that gives a nice summary of these different gods. And I think it's helpful to look there. Again, the book is an Akkadian handbook by Douglas B. Miller and R. Mark Shipp. And this is on page 62. And in speaking of Ninlil, they write, a lady wind, Sumerian mother goddess, spouse of Enlil, and goddess of Nippur, originally a grain goddess. So that's a little summary. One nice, very nice, helpful thing about this Akkadian handbook, it gives a lot of summary, especially that's helpful in not only the verbal forms, but in a glossary of proper names. So that's who Ninlil is. She is the Sumerian mother goddess, the spouse of Enlil. And so as we read on, he is calling her to bring judgment. And notice Shah Kibissa, who's her order. Notice Shah is your relative pronoun, like Asher in Hebrew, or sometimes She, like in Kohelet, Ecclesiastes. And Kibissa, her order. Who's her order? By the way, an interesting thought as we're on this, years ago, when I studied Ecclesiastes in seminary, one of the thoughts was it had to be a later writing than Solomon because of Sheh, the relative pronoun that was used, which is often understood as a later shortening form of Asher in Hebrew. However, I remember the professor back then saying, well, you know, that may not be a total argument for a later writing of Ecclesiastes or Kohelet, because Shah was used in Akkadian. And it would have been very easy to say sheh, even in earlier writing. If that be the case, then Ecclesiastes or Kohelet could have really been written by Solomon during his lifetime and all the wisdom that he had, using in Hebrew sheh rather than a later type of writing that you often find in Mishnaic Hebrew. So as we go on, the mighty mother, whose her order, notice kibissa is from kibtu, meaning order, and sa is your personal pronoun suffix, third feminine. And so again, we have kibtu in construct with sa here. So kibissa, her order, in ikor, in ikor. Again, we have your preposition in, and ikor is mighty. And notice kaptad is a gestative, feminine singular, from kabatu, to be mighty. And so again, we are talking about her order that is mighty in ikor. That basically, let me just see if there's any, yeah, ikor was the temple of Enlil in Nippur, a general term for temple, and so forth. So this is again found in the Akkadian handbook. And as we read on, so he's wishing her to be involved, and then nin mudamikat, that is the lady, and in Akkadian, Sumerian is nin, capital N-I-N. It comes across in an Akkadian translated as Beltum, meaning the lady who makes good my sayings. And notice mudamikat is from the verb damaku, to be good. And here we have a D participial form, a D participle, feminine singular. Notice the mu suffix, the doubling of the middle radical, the M, and the feminine ending. So who makes good my sayings? And igireya is from igiru, meaning saying. And here we have an accusative, a plural, who makes good my sayings. There we have that oblique, accusative plural in the E with the umlaut over it, and ya is your pronominal suffix, first person singular. So who makes good my sayings at the place of judgment. Notice ashar is from ashru, meaning the place, and again in construct with shiptim, from shiptu, meaning judgment. And notice again it's in the genitive. So may the lady who makes good my sayings at the place of judgment defend what I put up against those that would seek to destroy it. Hammurapi is saying. And then in the next line, line 88, notice it reads, U purusim, and decision, in a mahar ilil, in the presence of ilil. In other words, may my sayings be established at the place of judgment, and decision, here we have another genitive, in and of judgment and of decision in the presence. Notice machru in Akkadian means presence, and mahar means presence. It's in construct with alil. And inna is your preposition again, taking your genitive case. And enlil or alil, we've already referred to that, but let me just read it again in terms of who enlil is. Enlil can sometimes be Elil in Akkadian. Enlil is the Lord Wind, and this is on page 50 of an Akkadian handbook. Lord Wind, chief god of the Sumerian pantheon, city god of Nippur, son of Anu. And the writers go on to say that he confers Enlilship onto other gods, as did Anu. So that's a little background of Enlil again. So as we go on, in the presence of Elil, his word, that is awasu. Notice awasu is from awatu, meaning word. Again, when you add shu, your pronominal suffix, third masculine singular, you end up with two S's in Akkadian, as it develops historically. So his word, and that su again is your pronominal suffix, and awatu becomes, or is in construct here, awas, literally awat shu becoming awasu historically. And if we were going to speak of, I think, historical Akkadian. And then may ninlil make bad or vitiate. Notice li lemin is from lemenu, which means to be bad or to make bad. And here it's a deprecative. And notice you have your li prefix, indicative of the precative, doubling of the middle radical, looking at a D stem. So it's a deprecative from lemenu, or lemenu, to make bad or to vitiate. Then as we move on, line 91, notice it reads, Shuput matishu chalak nishishu. That is the ruining of his land. Notice shuput means that which, or to ruin, and it's from the noun shuputu, meaning ruin. And notice matishu from matum. Again, it's in the genitive, and so the ruining, two nouns in construct, of his land, matishu, and matishu is in your genitive case here, and shu is your pronominal suffix, third masculine singular. Then in line 92, chalak nishishu tabak napishtishu. That is the destruction of his people. Here we have chalku again in construct with nishishu, the destruction of his people, from nishum, meaning a people, and it's in the genitive again. Notice the I, and shu is your pronominal suffix, third masculine singular. So the destruction of his people, and then the pouring out of his life. This is from tabku, to pour out, and so tabak, or the pouring out, I should say, would be rendered the pouring out again in construct, tabku becoming tabak, in construct with napishtishu from napishtu. So again, the pouring out of his life. We have another genitive here, followed by shu, the pronominal suffix, as water. In other words, the pouring out of his life as water. Kima me. And me is from mu, and again, it's in the genitive case with kima, as water. And I think in Hebrew you have that inseparable prefix often, kep, And if you wanted to say as water, kemayim in Hebrew. And so it's interesting. There is a close relationship here, I think, between these nouns. And then by the mouth of Elil, the king, may she put or cause to dwell. May this happen in a P by the mouth. And notice ka, again, is the Sumerian for mouth. The Akkadian is pum. And here it's in the genitive with P, followed by ina, the preposition that takes the genitive, in the mouth of Enlil. Notice Enlil or Alil, and Enlil is your Sumerian, and we're bringing it into normalization as Elil, in the mouth of Elil. By the way, that little D sign in capital EN dash L-I-L is Dinger, D-I-N-G-E-R. It's the sign of a god. And then the king, Sharim, notice again, it's in the genitive from Sharu, or Sharum, meaning king. The king, may she cause it to dwell. In other words, notice Lishashkin is from Shekanu, to dwell. And here again we have a Shin precative from the root Shakanu, to dwell, a Shin precative. And I'm thinking, I'm going to stop there. It's interesting to me, he's wishing all of these curses on anyone that would change his laws. And he's calling the gods to bring these curses upon anyone who would do this. Ninlil, Alil, and so forth. The verb shakanu captured my interest because in Hebrew we have shachan in the book of Exodus, where the glory of God, the kavod, dwelt in the tent of meeting, moed, the tent of meeting. Now, I've thought about that, and we speak of the Shekhinah, the dwelling of God. And when you look at Yehezkel, the book of Ezekiel, the tent of meeting, actually the dwelling of God left. And the rabbis said it would come back when Messiah would come. And as a Christian minister, that always meant a lot to me as I read the Gospel of John in the New Testament, where in verse 14, it reads in the Greek, kai sarx agenata, the word became flesh, and eskenosin, and tented, or pitched his tent among us, and we beheld his glory, his doxa, glory as of the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth. So it is interesting that John, I believe, works on the Hebrew shachan, speaking of the dwelling of God in Jesus Christ, the God-man, because Christ in John is totally divine, fully God and perfect man. And so the word, which refers to Christ in the Gospel of John, became sarx, became flesh, became human. And so we have the God-man, the dual nature of Jesus. And it's interesting that in Greek, kai sarx agenata, kai eskenosin, from skenao, related to the Hebrew word shachan. And I thought that was interesting, that the glory of God, according to John, has now come back in Jesus Christ, the perfect God-man, who is perfect in his human nature and fully divine, and pitched his tent among us, and we gazed upon his glory. Glory as of the only begotten of the Father. So that hit me as I was going through this, because one of my goals is to look at Hebrew parallels as well as New Testament parallels when we come to a word, and in my mind, like shakanu, meaning to dwell. Here, of course, Hammurapi is wanting the judgment of God, or the judgment of Elil, and of Elil, may Ninlil put in him that this curse would dwell. And I thought, what a difference between this and the blessing of the glory of God that has appeared in the perfect God-man, Jesus Christ, as a Christian for me, as I look at John chapter 1, verse 14. So I'm going to stop here and we'll go on. I'm hoping this is helpful, learning the Akkadian grammar and hopefully reading in Hammurapi's Epilogue. I would encourage anyone to read it from the original text by going to Berger. He has it in the original, looking at not only the transliteration, normalization, but looking at the actual cuneiform. And that will be a way of reviewing the cuneiform as well with the grammar. I think grammar, though, has to be done apart from the cuneiform. So thank you for this time. I hope that it's helpful. And again, I was just excited about that verb shakanu, pointing in my mind as a Christian minister looking at New Testament to the God-man, perfect man, fully God, in the incarnation of Jesus Christ. Thank you for letting me share this. I'm enjoying it. I hope it's helpful.